Good morning, scholars. Today we'll Good morning, scholars. Today we'll continue our way through Pharr's Homeric Greek, a book for beginners, looking at lesson 22, the formation of the perfect and pluperfect in the middle/passive tense. Okay, so the perfect and pluperfect middle indicative is inflected by adding the primary or the secondary middle endings directly to the tense stem. Herein, it agrees with the Mid conjugation, which we'll see soon. So the perfect adds the primary endings, the pluperfect the secondary middle endings. Now in vowel verbs, the formation is simple, as in lelumai, elelumain. But in consonant verbs, the consonant at the end of the stem comes into collision with the consonant at the beginning of the ending. Hence, certain euphonic changes, described in section 409 of Smyth, occur, and these are what make this tense especially challenging, the forms of these verbs in this tense especially challenging to learn. There's also a periphrastic form, which we'll see that occurs in the third plural and sometimes in the third singular. So here we go. Let's look at this. Our endings then are in the perfect, the primary endings, my, psi, tai, meta, sta, and then the periphrastic, menoi, ese, which is a combination of the perfect middle participial ending plus the third plural of the verb eme, to be, ese. And then in the pluperfect, we have main, so, to, meta, sta, and menoi, esan, esan being the imperfect of ame, to be. So, if we look at the wonderful chart of tense suffixes that I've told you is your best way to consolidate your overview of the Greek verb system, you'll see that we're actually at the end of this process as far as the omega verbs are concerned, because we've covered the present system where you have the thematic vowel, we've covered the future system where you have sigma plus the thematic vowel, we've covered the first aorist system where you have sigma plus alpha, the second aorist system with the thematic vowel, the first perfect system with kappa alpha, and now we're looking, and the second perfect system with just the stem and alpha, and now we're looking at the perfect middle system, which has no tense suffix, that is nothing between the verb stem and the ending, so therefore you get that collision that is going to be our main challenge to navigate. And then of course we've seen the first and second passive systems, aorist passive systems. So, pat yourself on the back. We've now completed the system of omega verbs, or at least are on the doorstep of doing so. So, in the simplest case, where your verb stem ends in a vowel, you have the very simple just add the endings. So you end up with lelumai, lelusai, lelutai, lelumata, lelusta, and then lelumenoese, the periphrastic form. And likewise in the pluperfect, you end up with elelumain, eleluso, eleluto, elelumata, eleluste, and lelumenoesan. And note, of course, that the participle of the periphrastic third plural is not going to have the augment, because the participle doesn't have the augment. You only have it in the indicative form. Okay, so let's look at how these periphrastic forms are discussed by Smyth. Smyth says in section 408, the periphrastic third plural is used instead of the forms derived directly from the union of the stem with the ending. Thus, gegramenoi ese is used for gegrapnakai, which would have become gegrabatai by a certain function that's explained at 35b, where nu between consonants passes into alpha. So the periphrastic form is also used in verbs that add sigma to their stems, as in teteles manoi ese for teteles intai. Now, and finally, stems in nu that drop nu in the perfect stem form their perfect and pluperfect regularly. Thus, you can see in a verb like krino, you can see ke krintai or the pluperfect e ke krinto. But more often than not, you'll be looking at that periphrastic form. Okay, so much for the periphrastic forms. Now, here's our main challenge. Because the perfect middle system has no tense suffix, because there's nothing between the consonant that ends the verb, the tense stem, and the endings, you're going to have these collisions, and you're going to have to navigate certain euphonic changes. So as it says here, in the perfect and pluperfect middle of stems ending in a consonant, certain euphonic changes occur upon the addition of the personal endings. So you have these collisions, boom, and these euphonic changes occur. And these changes are found in the rules in section Smyth 82 through 87, and then section 103. So if you really think about it, it's really only 6 different rules you have to understand, but they're a little intimidating, as we'll see. Okay, so in displaying this, what Smyth actually does, the way he attacks it, is to give you, what are we looking at? 8 different model verbs. What is it? A labial, 2 dentals, 2 palatals, a vowel with sigma, a nasal, and a liquid to demonstrate the formation. And by demonstrating how these vowels are conjugated in the perfect middle, he basically covers all the phonetic rules that we're dealing with. So the verbs that he uses are gegramai, have been written, lelemai, have been left, pepesmai, have been persuaded, pepragmai, have been done, elelegmai, have been refuted, tetelesmai, have been completed, pepasmai, have been shown, and engelmai, have been reported. Okay, and those are derived from the stems grap, lep, paith, prag, elenk, teles, pan, and angel, respectively. So you see, there is kind of leaps to be made between the stem and most certainly the present forms and the middle passive forms, or the middle passive forms. So this is where we just fall back on the core of the challenge of Greek, and that's, knowing your principal parts, being familiar with the principal parts of the verbs. Okay, but these are the verbs Smyth is going to deal with, and we'll see how he handles them. So we've got to stick, or really get our head back into the distinctions he has between labial, palatal, and dental stems. And so we'll start with the euphonic rules for labial stems. So, and these rules, this is going to make your head spin, but here they are. Pi, beta, and pi before mu become mu. Pi, beta, pi combined with sigma form psa. Pi and pi before sigma become pi. Beta and pi before tau become pi. And sigma between consonants is dropped. So those rules, just listening to them like that, I'm sure you're want to pass out. But this is where it's very important that you write them and you think about them and you do some pen work to get your mind around this. Okay, but actually you'll see that when you look at the raw forms that these phonetic transformations actually reflect what your mouth actually does in making the sounds when these consonants collide. So in describing these labial euphonic operations, he says, in your labial stems, lelemai is for lelepmai, because that pi before mu becomes mu. Lelemai becomes is results from lelepmai, and if you try to say lelepmai really quickly, you will end up with lelemai, and that's the point. So lelepton is for lelepson, because sigma between consonants always disappears, and that's the same for lelepte, standing for lelepste. Again, sigma between consonants disappears. And so in the same manner, you have inflected other labial stems like tribo, rub, ripto, throw. So you end up with tetrimai, tetripsi, etc. And stems ending in mu and pi drop pi before mu, but retain it before other consonants, and thus with pimpo you get pepimai becoming pepimai, pepimpmai becoming pepimai, pepimpsi becoming pepimpsi, pepimptai becoming pepimptai, pepimpmeta becoming pepimmeta, pepimpsa becoming pepimpta, and consult section 103. So, I don't want to make this video too long by reading out all these explanations, but you'll see that if you familiarize yourself with the euphonic rules, spend just a little time like memorizing them out, or maybe make flashcards and then do work with the flashcards just to get the concepts in your mind. Once you read these descriptions, they do make sense, and you can see how the rules are working and how natural they really are to the apparatus of human speech. So, with regard to dentals, you have another set of rules. Okay, dentals before mu, tau, delta, or theta before mu just becomes sigma. Likewise, tau, delta, and theta before sigma are assimilated, and so you get two sigmas, of which one is dropped, and you end up with one sigma. And then tau, delta, and theta before tau also becomes sigma, and then sigma between consonants is dropped. So you see that when you're dealing with the delta stems, the sigma really just rolls over everything, or is very dominant and remains persistent. So when you look at the forms there, you see with the dental stems, he says, pepes tai is for pepe tai, etc., etc. Like I said, I don't want to read these. It would be rather tedious. You can study them yourselves. And then for palatal stems, you have another set of rules. Kappa and chi before mu become gamma, but gamma itself before mu remains unchanged. The palatals with sigma form xi. We already saw that when we looked at the formation of the future with sigma, and the first aorist with sigma alpha. But gamma and kappa before sigma in this case become kappa, and gamma and chi before tau become kappa. And again, sigma between consonants is dropped. So these rules, like I say, they seem a bit complex, but they are very natural to the organs of speech, and you end up with these phenomenon that Smyth then describes at 409C. and I just direct you to this for a discussion of he's doing with peroxide here. Okay. So when we finally get to the liquid and nasal stems, it becomes a bit simpler because liquids and nasal, they really don't cause a lot of grief, but nevertheless, you will see that stems in lambda and rho are inflected like angelmai, that is angelo, and such stems are verbs like stello, to sin, and hyro, to raise, and etc., etc. So you can look at these. Most important here, it's the stems in nu dropping the nasal are inflected just like lelumai, as in crino, which is krimai, etc. So these are our rules, and they are intimidating. You know, there's no way around it. This is one of the slogs when it comes to learning your Greek verbs, is these perfect middles where you have these collisions and have to deal with these phonetic rules. Because just bare knuckle learning them is darn near impossible. You really have to understand the rules that are going on, and then it becomes kind of clear. Okay, so the end result is that you have, as Smyth displays these paradigms for lepo, grappo, peto, and prato. You have lelemai, lelepsai, leleptai, lelemeta, lelepte, lelemenoi ese. And you hear how smoothly all of those get pronounced. That's a result of the euphonic collision, mingling that changes and transforms and kind of conceals what the actual ending is. So with grapho, you have gagramai, gagropsai, gagroptai, gagramethta, gagropte, gagramenoi ese. And with patho, you have pepesmai, pepesai, pepestai, pepesmeta, pepeste, pepesmenoi ese. And then with prato, finally, you have pepragmai, peproxai, peproctai, pepragmeta, peprocte, pepragmenoi ese. So you see, I mean, it makes a lot of sense and is very logical and true to the physiology of the human speech organ. And finally, he does the pluperfects for us with those same verbs. Elelemnein, elelepso, elelepto, elelemeta, elelepte, lelelemenoi esan. Egegramen, egegropso, egegropto, egegrameta, egegropte, gegegramenoi esan. And then epepesmen, epepeso, epepesto, epepesmeta, epepeste, pepepesmenoi esan. And then finally, from prato, epepragmen, epeproxo, epeprocto, epepragmeta, epeprocte, pepragmenoi esan. So he has another set of verbs that he declines, including angelo, and I realize I didn't cut and paste that, but you can look at it in Smyth for yourself. But so this is the very, like I say, challenging declension of these perfect middle forms that get complicated because of the euphonic rules. Be patient with yourself. Be patient with these forms. I'm not sure how many of them you'll see in Homer, but definitely once you get to Attic, you'll see them, and I'm sure they abound in the New Testament. But they are one of the challenges. So don't be discouraged. Keep working hard, but just know that the principal parts of the verbs are the key to really just being able to operate very, well, never easily, but to be able to operate at all in all of this. Okay, so have a great day. I hope to see you again soon, and keep working hard. Goodbye.